Hello! 7 years after its initial introduction, KineFlex has now grown into a more universalized tool with a much broader range of functionality. Now KineFlex is not limited only to smart magnet rig transformations, but is also capable of controlling RC sliders and transformers. It can even interact with non-rigged symbols. All these evolutionary changes make the existence of a new video demonstrating the recent additions absolutely necessary. So here we go. What is KineFlex? In version 7 and beyond, KineFlex is our universal tool for FK and IK transformations, frame scrubbing and squash and stretch in the context of smart magnet rigs. It also operates all our current and future controllers, such as RC sliders, visibility switches, and transformers. In Animate, after you install EDAP tools, you have to manually add KineFlex to the toolbar, so press the 3 dots below the toolbar, find the KineFlex icon in the pool of tools and drag it to the toolbar. Then obviously by clicking on the icon you will be able to select the tool. In all versions of Flash, KineFlex will appear automatically in the toolbar. It is also associated with a command with a shortcut key of G, so pressing G in Flash and Animate will switch the currently active tool to KineFlex regardless of what you had chosen before. So press G and KineFlex will become your currently selected tool, which will allow you to instantaneously start making KineFlex transformations. I will go into detail about those a little later. The only exception from this shortcut rule is Flash 8, where just due to limitations pressing G will do nothing, so you will actually need to click on the button in the toolbar to select KineFlex. Now, on top of the G shortcut, there's another one, Shift G, which will call KineFlex Quick Settings. In different versions and depending on whether you're using the free version of EDAP tools or a premium version, you will get a slightly different setting. So look at this dialog in Flash 8. There are only very few options to choose from, even though this is EDAP Premium, while in Animate, pressing Shift G will provide us with more options to choose from. Later in this video I will go through all these settings. Now let's start by looking into what KineFlex can do in the free version of EDAP tools. First of all, obviously, we can interact with a smart magnet rig without a modifier key. We get what we called soft rotation, where the clicked element can be rotated and all the attached children stay attached while maintaining relative angles. So this is soft rotation. This is soft rotation of the torso and soft rotation of the arm, soft rotation of the lower arm, and soft rotation of the neck. There are two modifiers which we can use with KineFlex. Alt, when holding down Alt and dragging an element, this will result in hard rotation. All the children will remain hardly attached to their parent, which we are interacting with. We can press and release Alt, and this will result in the joints stiffening at the moment we press Alt. So here is I'm holding down Alt and then I'm releasing it, so we go into soft rotation, and now I'm pressing down Alt again and we're going into hard rotation and releasing it, and soft and hard. So we can alternate between soft and hard rotation in forward kinematics to jump between these functions for quick and easy posing. On top of that, in the free version, we have the Alt and Shift modifier, which allows us to frame scrub the clicked symbol. So in this case, I'll hold down Alt and Shift and click on the hand. This allows me to choose different frames inside that symbol. If I click and drag, this will go through the symbol. There are two speeds. Oh, you can see that the limiters on the screen show this is the slower speed, and if I go beyond that line, this will go through the frames slightly faster. Clicking to the right of the edge point will advance, and clicking to the left of the edge point will go in the other direction, so backward. We can frame scrub any symbol that we click on, as long as it has contents inside. Upon release, that's what we end up with. And we can just, with single clicks, we can very specifically choose the frame that we like. There is also the Shift modifier, which allows us to drag chains away. So this is how you can move a whole chain or an element, and of course we can snap them back into position. So drag a whole chain by holding down Shift. This is in FK mode. So I'll snap them back. We can also use RC sliders. Again, we drag the thumb of the slider with KineFlex. So this is how a slider is operated. We can use switches, which are also a free feature. In this case, I've switched the limbs when I turned the body in the opposite direction. I'll switch them again. With frame scrubbing, we can hold down Alt and Shift and drag the torso in the opposite direction, and then use another switch so that there is a twist in the body. We can also interact with non-rigged symbols. In this case, what we have here on the stage are two drawing objects. So drawing objects, clicking on them will do nothing but just select them. But if we turn these into symbols, we can actually do basic transformations. So clicking on a symbol will pop this, giving us information that holding down Shift, we can move a symbol, and holding down Alt will let us rotate the symbol. This just makes interacting with symbols easier without the need to constantly switch between KineFlex and the selection or a free transform tool, because we don't want to accidentally transform non-rigged elements. That is why you need to always interact with them using a modifier. So a click will only select a non-rigged symbol. This is more or less what you can do with KineFlex in the free version of EDAPT tools. In EDAPT Premium, there's also this button, which is a toggle switch for KineFlex functionality, where we can switch between scrub frame and squash and stretch. Scrub frame, we already saw it. That's clicking with the Alt plus Shift modifier, which lets us go through the content of a symbol. Let's go back. And squashing and stretching allows us to squash and stretch any symbol that we click on. In this case, I will do so with the torso again. Hold down Shift and Alt and drag up or down to control the squashing and stretching. It can be done for any symbol. In this case, I will not push the robot because he's a rigid character, but let's look into another example of squashing and stretching with a more organic design, such as our KineFlex. So I'll use IK for this example, and we'll go back into IK interactions in a moment. Lock the feet, and then with KineFlex selected, I'll switch to squash and stretch, and holding down Alt and Shift will stretch the torso a little bit to create some kind of an antic with a little offset, and possibly even drag the torso a little bit backward. And then we'll make another keyframe. We'll lock the controllers again, and this time squash the torso. So holding down Alt and Shift and drag down will squash the torso and possibly change the angle. Unlock and drag a little lower so that we have a little squat, and then we can go into another stretched pose. This time I'll drag the torso, lift one of the feet and stretch the torso. Not too much. I think that should be enough for a short demonstration. Don't want to make the video too long, so here we go. I'll play it back. Okay, so you see how squashing and stretching is very effective with organic characters. Now let's go back to this file and demonstrate the IK transformations with KineFlex. If we drag an IK controller without any modifiers, we'll end up with soft rotation of the element that is beyond the effector. So look at the hand in this case. With dragging the effector, we are modifying the IK chain, which is the upper and the lower arm, but the hand is in soft rotation. If we hold down Alt, even without releasing, the joint will stiffen. So it's the same as with FK transformations. If you hold down Alt, you end up with hard FK rotation. The same happens with IK transformations. You can hold and release Alt, and this will result in the element beyond the IK chain stiffening. So you can initiate the transformation with Alt down before dragging, and in this case look at the foot. It will remain in hard rotation until you release Alt. So now I'll release Alt. Now it is in soft rotation. Alright, holding down Shift and dragging one of these elements like the torso or the upper body will result in these effectors working as pins. So this is just a normal rotation without any modifiers, and you can see how the reverse IK active effectors work as pins. We can Shift and Alt click on an effector to switch its state, and now this one will not be a pin anymore. See? And holding down Shift and dragging the master parent will result in the character squatting. So the reverse IK active effectors serve as pins. We can switch this one as well by Alt Shift clicking on it with KineFlex. So these are the types of interactions with effectors. On top of that, we also have braces. Let me select a couple of effectors and create a brace. Here it is. Now if I drag the brace with KineFlex, these two effectors will move with the brace. So this is how braces work. You can control multiple effectors with the brace, and you can add more by clicking on the three dots. So select an effector and click on the three dots and go link or unlink. In this case, I'll link this one to the brace as well. So now we can control the 3 IK chains with one brace, and we can also, let me position the brace somewhere centrally like that. We can grab this handle of the brace and rotate, and we'll end up with this kind of rotating action. Let me remove the foot effector from the brace. So the effectors are still independent of the brace if you drag them, but if you drag the brace, it controls the effector. So I'll unlink this one, and now it's only the arms that will be controlled by the brace. So you can see this kind of funny movement around the center. Okay, so this is the little button here, which allows us to change various settings. These little 3-dotted buttons on sliders and transformers are the same. You can click on it to get to the settings or to add or remove elements. Now, on top of sliders and switches, which we've already seen, we can control transformers. I have demonstrated these many times, but for the sake of this presentation, I'll very quickly do a little change in the angle of this face by moving the features up and lowering the eyebrows and the ears, and possibly adjusting the hair a little bit. I'll move the muzzle slightly up and the nose slightly up, so that we end up with a slightly different angle of this head. So this is how we can control transformers with KineFlex, and of course since these are all separate elements, we get this kind of 2.5D animation very easily. There are these buttons here. This other one allows us to create keyframes for the slider group. All this information is available in the respective videos and articles for the sliders and transformers. Now let us look at a couple of more examples of posing with KineFlex. In this case, we have hard and soft welding, so the upper torso is split into 2 parts. This one is soft welded, which allows some extra movement in the upper torso area, while this one controls both parts of the torso, and of course we can rotate the master parent, and we can very effectively pose the legs with the IK controllers to slightly change the pose. Another example of effective use of frame scrubbing would be switching this patch here, which there are 2 frames inside this lower leg symbol patch. So Alt-Shift clicking on the patch will switch between frame 1 and frame 2, and this will result in this wrinkle appearing as if the elements overlap in a different way. Of course, everything about FK and IK posing is valid for this character as well, because he's a smart magnet rig. We can frame scrub the head as well. Now let's look at some of the settings that KineFlex has. Obviously, one way of accessing those would be via EDAPT control panel and then KineFlex. There are some more explanations what these settings do, but the quickest way of accessing the settings would be via the Shift+G shortcut, which opens the quick settings dialog. Now, first of all, it's very apparent that we can choose some colorization for the active chains. In this case, the FK chains will be green and IK chains will be red. So let's activate this and have a look at it. dragging on this arm, you see that the two arm elements go red and the hand stays green. If I drag the master parent, we see the legs are red and everything else goes green. If I go this way, everything is green because these are non-pinned effectors. If I make this one into a pin, then this chain will become red because it will be an active IK chain. So this is colorization. It can be, I guess, useful for people who are still learning, to give them some guidance. The other option in Animate, which is not available in Flash, is the Draw IK chains, which results in lines showing the IK chains and the joints. You can see how these work. Again, this can be quite useful for people who are still learning how the IK and FK actually work. Here we go. Since posing is obviously only possible when we are at the keyframe, there is this option called Jump to Current Keyframe, which is on by default, and I advise you to keep it on all the time. The result of this option is that if we are not at the keyframe and we use KineFlex to click on any smart magnet rig element like the head, we will jump to frame 6 where we have a keyframe, so that we will be able to pose the character. If we switch this option off and click on the controller, you'll only get this warning that you need to be in an existing keyframe. Of course, you can create a keyframe here and then it will start working, but for a more uninterrupted process, just keep it on. The other two options, the snap after a symbol scrub or squash and stretch operation, and a scrub and squash and stretch hard welded symbols, these two are related to what we already saw. If we frame scrub elements at the end of the transformation, see how the arms snapped back into position. This is what it does. If we switch it off, they will not snap. That's it. In most cases, the reasonable thing would be to keep all of these enabled. Now they will snap, but relatively. So we'll need to use Smart Magnet Joint to reassemble the character. And finally, in Animate, we have this rig complexity drop down, which lets you choose between 4 different options. The default is medium, and for a simple rig like this one, a medium is perfectly adequate. You can see the performance is butter smooth. But with a very highly complex character like this one, you can see some stuttering when doing reverse IK transformations. This is all relative to actually the hardware capabilities of a system. So switching to high rig complexity will make these transformations much smoother. It's up for you to experiment. If you see that KineFlex struggles with some rigs, you can just go one level up to high or very high. Or if your computer is extremely powerful, you may just be able to keep it to low complexity all of the time. This presentation is already way too long, but I hope that I haven't missed any important aspect of using KineFlex. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.